You know, I've been fishing jigs ever since I was a teenager, back in the 70s here in the Ozarks. And, you know, that was a big deal back then because back in the day, back in like the late 1970s, that's when the living rubber jig first came out. Hey guys, I'm Randy Blaukat, and this is the Blaukat Old School Jig. There you go. This is a good fish right here. Nice fish. The way this jig is, it's designed for pitching and flipping. You can pitch and flip bluff banks with it, rocky banks, boat docks, flooded cover, laydowns. It just goes on and on and on, what you can do with that. Yeah. Nice chunk. Got 20 foot of water off of this main lake point. Specifically with this jig, what I wanted to do is I wanted to design it that had a head design that allowed it to come through wood and rock cover both effectively. The second thing about this jig is you'll notice about it is the length of the shank of the hook. It's significantly shorter than the shank of traditional jigs. But with the jig that we designed here, you have a short shank on it, which not only makes for a better hook set on the fish, but it allows you to create a smaller profile if you need to, and then also a larger profile on the same jig based upon the length of the skirt and the size and how you rig the trailer on. Here's the difference. Now this is the same jig. These are the exact same jigs, but notice the profile difference in them. Just a little bitty edible tidbit. Tell me that's not a good looking jig. That is just awesome looking. And then you got a full size jig. This would be like for flipping a heavier cover like this. Same jig, just different trailers. Once that live rubber jig caught on, it really became a key lure here in the Ozarks. There he is. Looks like a decent fish. Nice little Stockton Lake keeper here. And if you can see right here, this is a channel bank. You got some big boulder rock here, and you've got a transition into smaller rock. So this little transition area right here is where that fish was set up. He was set up off the end of this point, about 20 foot of water, close to this transition. And when you're jig fishing in the wintertime, that's what you want to look for. These fish are going to be hanging on these channel banks. They like to be around some type of bigger rock and where they've got immediate access into deep water. I was fortunate to get mentored by one of the Ozark legends around here. His name's Terry Thomas. That was when my introduction to the jig fishing that I use today began. Sorry. 90% of the tournaments during from about 1982 to back in the early 90s, I had nothing but a flipping stick, 30-pound test line, and a half-ounce live rubber jig with the #1 pork frog on it. That's just what I did. I finally took it out on the national circuit in 1989. I won my first Bassmaster event. It was a Bassmaster Top 100 tournament on Bugs Island Lake. Caught every fish that I weighed in that tournament on a half-ounce live rubber jig. Jig and pork frog to help you hook more fish. But the real key, guys, on this jig is the live rubber skirt. I'm not aware of any companies out there that make a hand-tied living rubber skirt anymore, because the problem that you have with it is it's extremely labor intensive. You have to tie this thing, you have to get it cinched right, you've got to even up the skirts. When you cut it, you've got to separate all the rubber fibers, because when you cut it with a pair of scissors, it doesn't come clean, and you've got to pick them through by hand. So the attention to detail on this jig is, you know, like none other out there. There's so many local jig experts in the Ozarks that continue to hand tie their own live rubber jigs, and they don't talk about it. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that you know, try to find access to live rubber, tie them up, because it simply produces more bass. That's one of the reasons I wanted to come up with this. I'm excited about it. I mean, if you guys have never used a living rubber jig before, I can promise you that you're going to be catching fish with it that you didn't with silicone. You're definitely going to want to have a few in your box.